Hello everyone, this is Mr. Appel, and today we are going to do a little review of a little more P6, this time adding and subtracting rational expressions. So adding and subtracting fractions, but this time, they're rational expressions. They're fractions with algebraic expressions. So you may remember this from Algebra 2. We're going to do a little review and then maybe extend a little bit. So just a quick review. Of course, when you're adding fractions like this first one here, you need a common denominator. And so to get a common denominator, we look for the least common multiple in the denominator. So the least common multiple between 5 and 2 is 10. So in this first one on the left side here, we would have to multiply top and bottom of the fraction by 2 to make that denominator 10. And over here, we'd have to multiply top and bottom by 5. And so this fraction over here would become 6 over 10, and this one over here would become 5 over 10, and now we'd have a common denominator. We could add and get 11 over 10, and we are done and happy. So this first example, we love this because we've already got a common denominator. So when we have a common denominator, just go ahead and do the operation. So I see it's subtraction, so I keep the denominator, x plus 5. I subtract on the top, so that's 2x plus 1 minus 3, which is 2x minus 2, and we are done. Now, just a quick note, when you're entering equations like this or expressions like this into Schoology, unfortunately Schoology doesn't really allow you to do fractions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have you put, there's going to be two different blanks for this question. One for the numerator, there'll be a blank, and then one for the denominator, and there'll be another blank. So look at those questions carefully. So for the numerator, you would just type in 2x minus 2 with no spaces. In the denominator, you would write x plus 5 with no spaces, and that's how you would type your answer into Schoology. And then if I ask for the domain, we're going to use the same rules we've been using for domain. In this case, if I ask for the domain, again, the domain is any x value that what are the x values? We have to find the x values, that can't be plugged into this function, what can't be plugged into this expression. So with fractions, the things that make that happen is if the denominator was 0. So what would make the denominator 0? And you can see here that would just be when x is negative 5. So if I ask for the domain, it would just be everything but negative 5. So it would be negative infinity to negative 5, union negative 5 to infinity. And again, if you're putting that into Schoology, you'd use INF and put no spaces in there. Okay, let's step it up a notch. So here we don't have a common denominator, so we need to do some work. So over here on the left, I'm going to multiply top and bottom by x minus 5. Basically, each of these denominators is its own factor. So 3x minus 2 is a factor, x minus 5 is a factor. So I need to multiply the top and bottom over here by x minus 5 over x minus 5. And over here on the right, I need the 3x minus 2 factor that's missing. So I would multiply the top and bottom by 3x minus 2. And notice that my denominators are identical. And my denominators are the same. It's x minus 5 times 3x minus 2. Now for now, I'm just going to leave it in that unsimplified form. Okay, and there's a reason for that. So let's do that. So now on the top, on the left here, I have got to distribute, so that's x squared minus 5x. Okay, and then over here, the right fraction, which is also all over that, we have 9x minus 6, because I have to distribute that 3. Now we can go ahead and add the numerators and keep the denominator. So we have x squared plus 4x, because I combine those like terms, minus 6. And so the reason I kept the denominator in factored form is because sometimes this will be able to be factored, and then you'll be able to cancel out and simplify. But in this case, I'm taking a quick look at this expression, and it's actually not factorable. It's not factorable. So you can go ahead and multiply out the bottom. Whoops, that should be 3x squared minus 2x minus 15, so that's minus 17x, and then plus 10. And it's not pretty, but that is what your answer would look like. Okay? And if you're putting answers into Schoology with an exponent, the way you're going to write this expression, the way you write x squared, now if you've seen this before, but you write x caret 2. And on a computer keyboard, that is shift, I'm going to look at my keyboard here, it's shift 6, and so you should be able to find that somewhere on your keyboard. So that whole expression up on the top, if you were typing this into Schoology, you would write x caret 2 plus 4x minus 6, again with no spaces. So that's x squared plus 4x minus 6. Okay, moving along. So here's another example. This one looking a little bit crazier. So in order to find a common denominator on the bottom, this could get really messy if I tried to multiply the whole top and bottom of this one by x squared minus 3x plus 2, and the whole top and bottom of this one by x squared minus x minus 2. You could do that, but it's going to get really messy. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to factor the two denominators. Okay, so I'm going to do that. So I'm going to leave the top alone for now because I can't do anything until I have a common denominator. So I'm going to factor the bottom of this one, and that's a pretty easy one to factor. That's x minus 2, x plus 1. And then over here on the right, again, I'm keeping the top for now, and I'm going to factor that, and that's x minus 2 and x minus 1. Okay? And now what I notice, I'm just going to make this a little bit smaller. Uh-oh, having some technical difficulties. All right, we'll just do this. Bear with me here. Okay, I'm just going to make it a little smaller so I have a little more room to work with. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I notice that I already have an x minus 2 in each denominator. So if I want the denominators to be identical, I just need to multiply by the factors that are missing. So what I'm going to do is over on the left, I want an x minus 1 that I don't have. So I'm going to just multiply the top and bottom by x minus 1. And over here on the right, I've got an x minus 1 and x minus 2, but I don't have the x plus 1, so I'm going to multiply top and bottom by x plus 1. I'm going to put that in parentheses so I organize my work. So notice that the denominator now is just x minus 1 times x minus 2 times x plus 1, and it's the same as this denominator over here. Okay, so it's a little messy, but not as messy as it would have been had I just gone crazy and multiplied this whole thing by that crazy denominator and this whole thing by that crazy denominator. Okay, we've still got a lot of work to do though. You having Algebra 2 flashbacks? That's okay. You get better at this the more practice you get. Okay, so now what we're going to do is keep the denominators and add the numerators. So on the top there, I need to FOIL that out. I need to multiply that out. So that's going to be 2x squared minus 1x minus 2x, so that's minus 3x plus 1. And I'm going to combine some steps here. I'm going to go ahead and add, okay, because I know I have a common denominator. So over here on this numerator, I'm going to distribute up on top x squared plus 1x minus 3x, so that's minus 2x, and then negative 3 times 1 is minus 3, all over that messy denominator. Didn't say these would be quick and easy, a little bit of work. Now up on top there, we got to combine some like terms together, so 2x squared plus x squared is 3x squared. I see negative 3x minus 2x is negative 5x. I see 1 minus 3 is negative 2. And on the bottom, I still have that mess, x minus 1, x minus 2, and x plus 1. Now, I might be finished, but unfortunately we're not, because I can factor the top. So this problem here can be simplified. So I'm going to factor the numerator, and that numerator can be factored. Okay? And that can factor to be 3x and x. And if I put a minus 2 here and a plus 1 there, I get negative 6x plus 1x. I get that minus 5x middle term. And then on the bottom, I still have x minus 1, x minus 2, x plus 1. Now, why did I bother doing that? Well, if you notice, now I have common factors on the top and bottom that I can cancel, that x minus 2. So now this expression simplified even further. So on the top, I just have 3x plus 1. And on the bottom, x minus 1 times x plus 1, which if I multiply that out, is x squared minus 1. And so I was able to simplify from this expression, the one that I had when I first added everything together with the common denominator, down to this expression, which is much simpler. That won't always happen, but sometimes it will. I think that's enough for today. Good luck.